The great crystal towers of Zephyria Prime reached toward the purple sky like fingers of living light. Inside the tallest tower, 7 different alien species sat around a circular table that hummed with soft energy. They called themselves the Galactic Council, and they had ruled this part of space for over 3,000 years. Today was different, though. Today they were not talking about trade routes or mining rights. Today they were telling stories. The humans fought with sticks. "In stones," said Ambassador Veltar, his forearms moving as he spoke. His skin was blue and smooth like polished metal. Their enemies had weapons that could destroy cities from space. But somehow the humans won. The other council members made sounds of amusement. Some clicked their tongues. Others whistled through breathing holes in their necks. To them, these human stories were just entertainment, like fairy tales told to children. "Tell us another one," said High Counselor Pexerin. She was tall and thin, with golden fur that sparkled in the chamber's light. Her people were known for their love of stories, especially impossible ones. Veltar smiled with too many teeth. There was a human colony on a dead planet. No water, no air, nothing but rock and dust. Their ships were broken. Their supplies were running out. Any normal species would have died in days, but not the humans, asked Captain Zorkic. He was short and wide with thick gray skin like armor. His people were warriors, but even they found the human stories hard to believe. "Not the humans," Veltar continued. "They dug deep into the planet. They found ice under the rocks. They built machines from the broken ships. In 5 years, they turned that dead world into a garden. When rescue ships finally came, the humans did not want to leave." More laughter filled the chamber. The stories always ended the same way. Humans doing impossible things. Humans refusing to give up when any smart species would surrender. Humans winning fights they should have lost. Commander Vexla sat quietly at the far end of the table. She did not laugh with the others. Her people, the Zelanians, had purple skin and large black eyes that missed nothing. They were known for their careful thinking and their perfect memory. Dexla remembered every human story she had ever heard, and she had heard many. The stories always followed patterns. Humans were always outnumbered. They always had worse weapons. They always faced impossible odds. They always found a way to win. Not through superior technology or greater numbers, but through something the other species called human stubbornness. Commander Vexla called High Counselor Pexeron. "You have been quiet. Do you not enjoy our stories?" Vexla looked up. From her datapad, she'd been reading the old files again, the ones from the deep archives that most people had forgotten. "I've been thinking about the patterns," she said. Patterns. Veltar's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. In the stories, the humans always do 3 things. First, they refuse to surrender, even when death is certain. Second, they use their tools in ways no one expects. Third, they work together, even when they have reasons to fight each other. Captain Zorkic laughed. "You think too much, Commander. They are just stories. Entertainment for long council meetings," perhaps Thexla said. But she did not sound convinced. The meeting continued for another hour. More stories were told. Stories of human soldiers who fought with broken weapons. Stories of human scientists who solved problems by ignoring the rules. Stories of human children who rebuilt civilization from ashes. All impossible. All entertaining. All dismissed as fiction by everyone except Dexla. When the meeting ended, Dexla returned to her office. In the military wing of the tower, the room was small and neat, with walls covered in star charts and data screens. She had spent years studying the old records, searching for truth in the stories. The humans came from a galaxy called the Milky Way. The records said their home. The planet was called Earth, but the records were old, over 500 years old. Number 1 had made contact with that galaxy since then. Most people assumed the humans were extinct, if they had ever existed at all. Vexla pulled up her favorite file on the main screen. It was a report from a Zelanian explorer ship that had visited the Milky Way long ago. The report described a blue and green planet covered in water and clouds. It described a species that had just learned to fly between stars. But the most interesting part was the end of the report. The explorer captain wrote, "These humans are dangerous. Not because they are strong, but because they do not know when to quit. They have already survived one extinction event on their planet. They speak of it like it made them stronger. I recommend. We avoid contact until we understand them better. That was 500 years ago. In galactic terms, 500 years was nothing. Short nap. If the humans were real, they might still be out there in their distant galaxy. It's growing stronger, learning new things. Dexla's datapad beeped softly. A new message from the Deep Space Monitoring Station. She opened it without much interest. The monitors picked up strange signals all the time. Usually it was just cosmic noise or old satellites, but this message made her blood run cold. It's unknown energy signatures detected from Galactic Sector 7A. Multiple objects moving at extreme velocity. Estimated arrival in local space, 14 solar days. Recommend immediate investigation. Sector 7A was the direction of the Milky Way galaxy. Dexla stared at the message for a long time. Round her, the tower hummed with its usual peaceful sounds. In the distance, she could hear laughter from the council chambers. Where other officials were probably sharing more human stories, she reached for her communication device and paused. What would she tell them? That the stories might be real? That something was coming from the human galaxy? They would laugh at her just like they laughed at the stories. But if she was right, the humans were real and they were coming here, then the Galactic Council needed to prepare, because all the stories agreed on one thing. When humans showed up, everything changed. Dexla made her decision. She would investigate the signals herself, quietly, carefully. If it was nothing, no one would ever know. But if it was something, if the legends were about to become reality, then she would be ready. She began typing orders for her personal scout ship. In 2 days, she would leave for the edge of known space to meet whatever was coming from the human galaxy. The stories might be about to end. The reality might be about to begin. Commander, the scout ship moved silently through the dark space between stars. 2 days had passed since she left Sephiria Prime. 2 days of flying toward the unknown signals from Sector 7A. Her ship was small but fast, designed for watching and listening rather than fighting. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers. Dexla sat in her command chair, watching the scanner displays. So far, she had found nothing, just empty space and distant stars. Commander, said her navigation officer, a young Zelanian named Kexlos, we are approaching the signal location. Dexla leaned forward. Any contact on scanners? Not yet. But the energy readings are getting stronger. Whatever made those signals is definitely out here. Dexla felt her hearts beating faster. Her people had 2 hearts, and both were working hard now. Take us to silent running. No active scans. Just passive sensors. The ship's systems went quiet. Now they could only listen and watch without sending out any signals that might be detected. It was safer this way, but it also meant they might not see danger until it was too late. They waited. Hours passed. Dexla began to wonder if she had made a mistake. Maybe the signals were just cosmic noise after all. Maybe she had let the old stories make her paranoid. Then Kexlos spoke in a whisper. Commander, contact. 3 objects approaching from the outer system. Dexla's skin went cold. On screen, the main display showed 3 dark shapes moving against the stars. They were still far away, but the computer was already analyzing their size and speed. The numbers that appeared made Dexla's breath catch. The objects were huge. Each one was over 1 kilometer long. They moved in perfect formation, like a pack of hunters, and they were fast, much faster than any ship the Galactic Council had ever built. Are they ships? Kexlos asked. They have to be, but look at the design. What? Computer finished its analysis and showed detailed images. The 3 objects were definitely ships, but unlike anything in the Council databases. They looked rough and practical. Metal plates welded together, engines that glowed with raw power. No smooth curves or artistic touches like Council ships. Had they looked primitive? Kexlos said. Do they? Dexla studied the images more carefully. Look at the engine signatures. Look at how fast they are moving. Those ships cross the space between galaxies. That is not primitive technology. A new alarm sounded. Commander, We have more contacts. Many more. The display showed dozens of new signals appearing. Ships of all sizes dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Some were as big as the first three. Others were smaller, sleeker. All of them had the same rough, practical design. Fleet formation, Dexla whispered. This is not an exploration mission. This is an invasion force. Should we return? To Zephyria Prime, Kexlos asked. His voice was tight with fear. Before Dexla could answer, her communication system came alive. A signal was coming from the alien fleet. The computer worked quickly to translate it. Attention unknown vessel. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Defiant. You have been monitoring our fleet. Please identify yourself and state your intentions. The voice was female and calm, spoke with confidence but not aggression. Dexla felt a chill as she realized what she was hearing. The voice of a real human. It's the first human voice heard in this galaxy for 500 years. Mendar Kexlos looked at her with wide black eyes. What do we do? Dexla thought quickly. She could run back to Zephyria Prime and warn the Council. But by the time she arrived, these ships might already be there. Or she could try to make contact. Learn what these humans wanted. Give the Council information that might save lives. Open a channel, she said. Commander, are you sure? Do it. The communication system crackled to life. Dexla took a deep breath and spoke. Captain Chen, this is Commander Vexla of the Zelanian Empire. I represent the Galactic Council of Zephyria. Welcome to our galaxy. There was a pause. Then the human voice returned. Thank you, Commander. We come in peace, seeking new homes for our people. Our galaxy is becoming crowded. Vexla almost smiled. It sounded so reasonable, so normal, just like any other first contact situation, except for one thing. Captain, you arrive with a military fleet. Our scanners show over 40 ships, many of them heavily armed. This does not look like a peaceful colony mission. Another pause. When Captain Chen spoke again, her voice was harder. Commander, my species has learned that peace is best maintained through strength. We hope for friendship, but we prepare for other possibilities. Other possibilities? We have encountered species before who see newcomers as threats to be eliminated. We prefer. To avoid such misunderstandings, Xla felt cold fear growing in her chest. The stories had always described humans as peaceful until threatened. But when threatened, they became something else entirely. Captain Chen, the Galactic Council maintains peace through cooperation and mutual benefit. We have procedures for integrating new species into our civilization. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting? That sounds reasonable, Commander. But I think there may be some confusion. We are not seeking integration into your civilization. We are here to establish our own territories. The words hit Dexla like a physical blow. No species had ever refused Council integration. Council controlled this entire galaxy. Trade, travel, settlement rights, everything went through the Council. Captain, I think there has been a misunderstanding. The Galactic Council has authority over all settlement in this galaxy. No species can claim territory without Council approval. The silence that followed was long and cold. When Captain Chen finally spoke, her voice carried a warning that made Dexla's scales prickle. Commander, let me be very clear. My people spent 200 years rebuilding from near extinction. We clawed our way back from the edge of death. We crossed the void between galaxies to find new homes. We will not ask permission to exist. Dexla stared at the communication panel. This was not going as planned. The human captain was polite but absolutely firm. There would be no negotiation. About Council authority. Captain, perhaps this conversation should continue at a higher level. Would you be willing to meet with our Council representatives? Of course, Commander, but understand that we will meet as equals, not as subjects seeking approval.
I will.
Convey your message to the Council. Thank you. One more thing, Commander. Your scout ship is impressive. Fast, quiet, well-designed. But my people have sensors you probably don't know about. We have been tracking you since you entered this system. Blood turned to ice. I see. No hostile intent, Commander. Just letting you know that we prefer honest communication. We will remain in this system for 3 days while you contact your council. After that, we will continue toward the inhabited worlds to begin settlement negotiations. The channel closed. Dexla sat in her command chair, staring at the fleet of human ships on her display. 43 vessels from a species that was supposed to be mythology. A species that had just politely but firmly told the Galactic Council to go to hell. Commander Kexlos whispered, "What do we do now?" Dexla activated her ship's fastest communication system. "We warn the Council, and we pray they listen." As her message raced toward Sephoria Prime, she watched the human fleet settle into defensive positions, professional, disciplined, ready for anything. The stories had always said that humans were dangerous when cornered, but these humans did not look cornered, they looked confident, like they had been preparing for this moment for a very long time. The legends were about to meet reality, and Nexla was very afraid that reality was going to be much worse than any story. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began within hours of receiving Commander Dexla's message. The great chamber buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from all 7 species gathered around the crystal table. This time, no. One was telling stories. High Counselor Pextron called for order. Her golden fur no longer sparkled. Instead, it looked dull and flat with worry. "We have all read Commander Dexla's report. The situation is clear. An unknown species is entered our galaxy with a military fleet and refuses to acknowledge Council authority. Ambassador Veltar's 4 arms moved in agitation. Impossible. No species has ever refused integration. The Council has maintained peace for 3,000 years through proper order and hierarchy. Perhaps they do not understand our ways," suggested Counselor Morhex. Her people were known for their diplomatic skills. "Once we explain the benefits of Council membership, they will surely cooperate." Admiral Kextar stood up from his seat. He was the Council's senior military commander, a veteran of the last border conflict 50 years ago. His thick gray skin bore scars from that long-ago battle. "You're all missing the point. These humans have 43 warships. That is more firepower than any single member species is allowed to maintain." "Exactly," said Pexron. "Which is why we must respond appropriately. Admiral, what do you recommend?" Kextar activated the chamber's main display, showed a tactical map of the local systems. "I recommend we dispatch a demonstration force, something impressive enough to show our technological superiority. Once they see what they face, they will accept proper placement in our hierarchy." The display changed to show Council fleet positions. Ships spread across dozens of systems, maintaining the peace through their mere presence. Most were centuries old, but still effective. The Council's technology was stable, proven, reliable. "How many ships?" asked Pexron. "Standard peacekeeping squadron. 12 heavy cruisers, 20 escort vessels, and my flagship. More than enough to handle 43 primitive ships from an unknown species." Counselor Morhex looked troubled. "Are we certain they are primitive? Commander Dexla's report mentioned they crossed between galaxies that suggest advanced technology." Kextar made a dismissive gesture. "Their ships look like scrap metal welded together. No artistic design, no elegance. Clearly the work of a crude industrial species. They probably stumbled onto faster-than-light travel by accident." Of the table, everyone turned to look. It was Commander Dexla. She had returned to Sephoria Prime to give her report in person. Her black eyes were serious and worried. "Commander," said Pexron carefully, "you have met these humans directly. What is your assessment?" Dexla stood up slowly. "High Counselor, I believe we are making a dangerous mistake." "Duh." The human captain was polite, but absolutely firm. She spoke like someone who has faced extinction and survived. "These are not simple colonists." "Nonsense," Veltar interrupted. "They are just another species that needs proper guidance. Once they understand the benefits of Council rule, they will comply." "Will they?" Dexla activated her personal datapad. "I have been studying the old records again. Every story about humans has the same pattern. They start peaceful. They offer cooperation. But when others try to force them into submission, they become something else entirely. Admiral Kextar laughed. Commander, you give too much credit to old fairy tales. These humans have 43 ships. My demonstration force will have 33. Ships with superior technology. The mathematics are simple. Are they? Dexla brought up tactical data on the main screen. Look at their fleet composition. 3 massive command ships, each larger than anything in our navy. 12 heavy cruisers with unknown weapon systems. 28 smaller vessels that could be fighters, scouts, or specialized attack craft. This is not a random collection of ships. This is a planned military formation. The chamber fell silent as the council members studied the data. For the first time, some of them began to look worried. Furthermore, Dexla continued, their ships crossed intergalactic space. Do you understand what that means? The distance between galaxies is vast. No council ship has ever attempted such a journey. These humans have technology we do not possess. Irrelevant, Kextar said firmly. Spear engines do not necessarily mean superior weapons. My ships have been tested in real combat. These humans have faced nothing but empty space. Have they? Dexla pulled up another file.
Oh.
The old records mention that humans survived an extinction event on their home planet. What if they have? Been fighting for survival for centuries? What if those rough-looking ships have been tested in battles we cannot imagine? Counselor Moorhex leaned forward. What do you recommend, Commander? Caution, diplomacy. Find out what they really want, before we threaten them with force. Admiral Kextar slammed his fist on the table. Unacceptable. The Council's authority cannot be questioned. If we allow one species to refuse integration, others will follow. Our entire civilization will collapse into chaos. If we attack them and lose? Dexla asked quietly. Impossible. Council technology is proven. Council tactics are tested. These humans are primitives with stolen technology. Pexron called for order. Enough debate. We must decide. Admiral Kextar, prepare your demonstration force. But proceed carefully. Try diplomacy first. Only use force if absolutely necessary. Understood, High Counselor. Commander Dexla, you will accompany the Admiral as an advisor. Your knowledge of human behavior may be useful. Dexla nodded reluctantly. She had a terrible feeling about this mission. But she could not refuse a direct order. The council session ended with detailed planning. Ship assignments, supply lines, communication protocols. Everything was organized with typical council efficiency. On paper, it looked perfect. 3 days later, Admiral Kextar's demonstration force departed Zephyria Prime. 33 of the Council's finest ships, gleaming with polished metal and graceful curves. Each one was a masterpiece of engineering, beautiful and deadly. Dexla stood on the bridge of the flagship Harmony's Voice. Watching the human fleet grow larger on the scanner displays, the human ships still looked rough and practical. Compared to council vessels, but they moved with precision that spoke of experienced crews. Admiral, she said quietly, I recommend we try communication first. Let me speak with Captain Chen again. Very well, Commander. But if they refuse our generous offer of integration, we will show them the consequences. The communication channel opened. Captain Chen's voice was calm and professional. Admiral. Kextar, welcome to our temporary anchorage. Hope we can resolve our differences peacefully. Captain Chen Kextar replied in his most formal tone. I bring greetings from the Galactic Council. I offer your species the opportunity to join our civilization. In return, you will accept proper placement in our established hierarchy and follow council laws regarding settlement and territory. There was a long pause. When Chen spoke again, her voice was colder. Admiral, I thought Commander the Slay had explained our position. We appreciate your offer, but we decline. We intend to establish our own territories. That is not acceptable, Captain. This galaxy operates under Council authority. No species may claim territory without our approval, and we have a problem. Admiral Kextar smiled. He had expected this response. Captain, I have brought 33 warships to demonstrate Council resolve. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Suggest you reconsider our generous offer. Another pause, then Chen's voice returned. and this time it carried something that made Dexla's scales prickle with fear. Amusement. Admiral, let me share something. With you, my great-grandmother fought in the Soul Defense War. 40 human ships against 300 alien vessels. Want to know how that ended? Captain, I do not have time for stories. The aliens had better weapons, better shields, better everything. But they made one mistake. They thought humans would fight like civilized beings. They thought we would. Follow their rules. Captain Chen, you are trying my patience. Admiral, those aliens learned something that day. When you threaten a human's home, when you tell them they cannot exist in the place they have chosen, you do not get a civilized response. You get something much older and much more dangerous. The communication channel went silent. On the scanner, displays the human fleet began to move. Not into retreat formation, into attack formation. Dexla turned to Admiral Kekstar. Admiral, I strongly recommend we withdraw and try a different approach. But Kekstar was already giving orders to his fleet. All ships, battle stations. Prepare to demonstrate Council superiority. As the two fleets moved toward each other, Dexla realized that the stories had been wrong about one thing. They always said humans were dangerous when cornered. But these humans were not cornered. They were confident, prepared, and absolutely ready for war. The test of strength was about to begin. And Dexla was very afraid of what it would teach them all. The space between the two fleets crackled with tension. Admiral Kekstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human ships arrange themselves into what looked like a defensive formation. To his experienced eye, it seemed almost primitive. The humans had formed a simple wall of ships, largest in front, smaller ones behind. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, the humans are not moving to attack position. They appear to be waiting. Kekstar nodded with satisfaction. Good, they recognize our superior numbers. Perhaps they will see reason after all. Commander Dexla studied her scanner readings with growing unease. The human formation looked simple, but something felt wrong. Admiral, their power signatures are increasing. All ships are charging weapons and raising shields. Expected, Commander. They want to look strong while they surrender. But Dexla was not convinced. She had spent years studying human stories, and she knew humans did not bluff. If they were preparing for battle, they intended to fight. Sir, the communications officer called out, Captain Chen is requesting to speak with you. Put her through. Chen's voice filled the bridge, calm and steady. Admiral Kekstar, this is your last chance to withdraw peacefully. Take your ships and leave this system. We have no desire to fight. But we will defend ourselves if necessary. Kekstar laughed. Captain, you are outnumbered 33 to 43. Your ships are crude and primitive. Surrender now, and I promise your people will be treated fairly under Council law. Admiral, I tried to warn you. Humans do not surrender when they believe they are right. And we believe very strongly that we have the right to exist where we choose. Then you will learn the price of defying the Council. The channel closed. Kekstar turned to his weapons officer. All ships assume attack formation. Target their command ships first. One demonstration of our firepower should convince them. The Council fleet moved forward in perfect formation. 33 gleaming ships, each one a masterpiece of technology and design. Their weapons charged with deadly energy. Their shields shimmered with protective force. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the alien fleet approach. Her crew worked quietly at their stations, each person focused on their job. There was no panic, no fear, just the calm professionalism of people who had trained for this moment their entire lives. Captain, her tactical officer reported, enemy fleet is moving into attack range. They are targeting our command ships. Acknowledged. All ships. This is Captain Chen? Remember your training? Remember why we are here? These aliens think they can tell us where we are allowed to live? Show them what happens when someone threatens human freedom. Aye, Captain. All ships report ready. Chen smiled. Grimly, the aliens had made several mistakes. First, they assumed human ships were primitive because they looked rough. Second, they thought superior numbers guaranteed victory. Third, and most importantly, They had threatened humanity's right to exist. The human ships had been built for one purpose: to ensure that humanity would never again face extinction. Every design choice, every weapon system, every tactical doctrine had been shaped by 200 years of bitter experience. "Captain," the sensor officer called out, "alien fleet is opening fire." Council ships unleashed their weapons. In a coordinated barrage, beams of pure energy lanced across space, striking the human formation. The aliens expected to see ships explode or shields collapse. Instead, the human ships absorbed the hits and kept coming. "Impossible," Admiral Kekstar whispered. "Our weapons should have destroyed at least 3 of their ships, sir," his tactical officer reported in confusion. "Their shields are holding, but the technology readings do not match any known defensive systems." Vexa leaned over the scanner displays. What she saw made her hearts race with fear. "Admiral, look at their hull composition. Those ships are not just armored, they are built like fortresses." The human ships had been constructed with one principle in mind: survival. Multiple hull layers, redundant systems, and armor that could absorb punishment that would destroy normal vessels. They had been designed by a species that expected to fight against superior numbers and technology. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "Captain Chen is transmitting to all ships." Chen's voice came through clearly, speaking not just to her own fleet but broadcasting to the council ships as well. "All human vessels, you are cleared to engage. Show them what we learned in the Soul Defense War." The human fleet exploded into motion. What the council had mistaken for a primitive defensive formation suddenly revealed its true purpose. The large ships in front were not just shields for the smaller ones behind. They were launch platforms. Hundreds of small craft poured out of the human ships. Fighters, bombers, assault pods, and things that defied easy classification. They moved with a speed and agility that made council fighters look clumsy. "Impossible," Kekstar gasped. "Where did they all come from?" The answer was simple, but terrifying. Human ships were not just warships. They were mobile bases, designed to carry entire squadrons of smaller craft inside their hulls. The rough, ugly exterior concealed internal hangar bays larger than most council space stations. But even more shocking was how the small craft fought. They did not follow standard tactical doctrine. Instead of maintaining formation and engaging from long range, they swarmed the council ships like angry insects. Council defensive systems had been designed to handle conventional attacks. They could not cope with hundreds of tiny, fast-moving targets that ignored all the rules of civilized warfare. "Sir," the tactical officer shouted over the alarms, "we are losing ships." The Perseverance just exploded. "The Unity is reporting total system failure." Kekstar watched in horror as his beautiful, advanced ships were torn apart by crude human weapons wielded with impossible skill. How were they doing this? Vexla had found part of the answer in her scanner readings. "Admiral, their weapons are not more advanced than ours, but they are using them differently. They are targeting our weak points with surgical precision." It was true. The humans had studied council ship designs during their approach. They knew exactly where to hit for maximum damage. Their attacks were not random or desperate. They were calculated and ruthless. But there was something else. Something that made Dexla's scales crawl with fear. The human pilots were not just skilled, they were willing to die. She watched as human fighters rammed council ships when their weapons ran out. She saw damaged human vessels turn themselves into guided missiles, steering into enemy holes with their dying breath. She witnessed acts of sacrifice that no civilized species would consider. "Admiral," she said quietly, "we need to retreat." "Now? Retreat?" Kekstar turned on her with fury. "The Council fleet does not retreat from primitives. These are not primitives, Admiral. These are the survivors of an extinction war. They fight like their species depends on it because, to them, it does." As if to prove her point, 3 human fighters broke through the Council defensive screen and headed straight for the flagship. The ship's automated defenses engaged, destroying 2 of the fighters. But the third one kept coming, Its pilot dead, but its course locked. The fighter struck the flagship's shield generator in a burst of flame and debris. The massive ship's shields flickered and died. "Sir," the damage control officer reported, "we have lost primary shields. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, casualties mounting." Kextar stared at the tactical display in disbelief. His superior fleet was being destroyed by enemies who should have been helpless against Council technology. But the humans were not fighting with technology alone. They were fighting with something the Council had forgotten: desperation. "All ships," Kextar commanded, his voice shaking. "Full retreat. Withdraw to hyperspace immediately." The navigation officer called out, "The humans are jamming our hyperspace generators. We cannot jump to safety." Vexla closed her eyes. She had tried to warn them. The stories had tried to warn them, but no one had listened. On the tactical display, the human fleet continued its relentless advance. Their rough, ugly ships moved through the wreckage of Council vessels. Like predators through a broken herd, Captain Chen's voice came over the communications channel one last time. "Admiral Kextar, do you wish to continue this demonstration of Council superiority?" Kextar looked at his ruined fleet. Of 33 ships, only 15 were still capable of fighting. The humans had lost 6 vessels, and their remaining ships showed damage, but they were still advancing. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "What we have always wanted, Admiral. The right to exist where we choose. The right to build homes for our children. The right to live free." Kextar realized, too late, that the humans had never been asking for permission. They had been giving warning. Now the warning was over. The demonstration of Council superiority had become a lesson in human determination. And the lesson was far from finished. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Admiral Kextar sat in his command chair, staring at the wreckage floating around his damaged flagship. Of his 33 ships, only 12 were still able to fight. The rest were either destroyed or drifting helplessly in space. His demonstration of Council superiority had become a complete disaster. Commander Vexla stood beside him, watching the human fleet maintain their positions around the broken Council force. The human ships still looked rough and ugly, but now everyone understood what that appearance really meant. These were not pretty parade vessels. They were weapons of war, built by a species that had learned to fight for survival. "Admiral," the communications officer called out weakly, "Captain Chen is requesting to speak with you." Kextar closed his eyes. He had no choice. "Put her through." Captain Chen's voice filled the bridge, still calm and professional despite the carnage around them. "Admiral, I am prepared to accept your surrender. Your surviving crews will be treated according to the laws of war. Surrender." Kextar's voice cracked. "The Galactic Council does not surrender to primitives." "Admiral, with respect, we are not primitives. We are the descendants of survivors. There is a difference." Vexla stepped forward. "Captain Chen, this is Commander Vexla. May I speak freely?" "Of course, Commander." You tried to warn him, did you not?" "I did, but no one listened." "Captain, what happens now?" There was a pause. When Chen spoke again, her voice carried the weight of someone who had seen too much war. "Commander, that depends on your council. We came here seeking new homes for our people. We offered peaceful coexistence. Instead, you sent warships to force us into submission." "Our council believes in order and hierarchy," Vexla said carefully. "They have maintained peace for 3,000 years through these principles, have they? Or have they maintained control through fear of superior technology?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. Vexla realized that Chen was right. The council had never really faced a species that could fight back effectively. Captain Kextar interrupted. "What are your demands?" "Simple, Admiral. Recognition of human territorial claims in the outer systems, the right to establish colonies without council interference, and most importantly, acknowledgement that humanity will never again submit to any authority that threatens our existence. Impossible. The council will never agree to such terms. Then the council will face the consequences." Before Kextar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The sensor officer called out in panic, "Sir, New contacts approaching. Multiple hyperspace signatures. The main display showed dozens of new ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. But these were not council vessels. They were human. Ships, arriving in wave after wave. Massive colony ships, escorted by warships that made the first human fleet look small. "My God," Dexla whispered. "How many ships do they have?" Captain Chen answered as if she had heard the question. "The 43 ships you first encountered were just our advance force, Commander. The main fleet carries 2 million colonists and enough military force to establish permanent settlements. More ships kept arriving, hundreds of them. The humans had not come to this galaxy to ask for permission. They had come to stay, and they had brought everything they needed to make that happen." Admiral Chen continued, "You should know that similar fleets are approaching other systems throughout this galaxy. Humanity is not seeking a small corner of space. We are claiming entire sectors for our people." Kekstar stared at the display. In horror, the implications were staggering. If humans were claiming multiple sectors, they would control territory larger than some council member species. The balance of power in the galaxy would shift completely. "Okay, this is invasion," he said. Weakly, "No, Admiral. This is colonization. The difference is that we are strong enough to protect what we claim." Vexla watched the human fleet continue to grow as more ships arrived. She began to understand the true scope of human planning. This was not a desperate refugee mission. This was a carefully planned expansion by a species that had learned hard lessons about survival. "Captain Chen," she said, "may I ask about your home galaxy?" "What would you like to know, Commander?" "The old records mention that humans survived. An extinction event. What really happened?" There was a long silence. When Chen spoke again, her voice was filled with old pain. "Commander, 300 years ago, my species almost died. Alien invaders came to our galaxy, had better technology, larger fleets, superior weapons. They told us we were primitive and needed to be eliminated for the good of galactic civilization."
Vexla
felt her blood run cold. The parallels were unmistakable. "We fought them for 50 years, Chen continued. We lost 90% of our population. Entire worlds were turned to glass. But we learned something during that war. We learned that survival requires more than just hope and diplomacy. It requires strength." "How did you win?" Kekstar asked. Though he seemed afraid of the answer, "We did not just win, Admiral. We destroyed them completely. Every ship, every base, every trace of their civilization. When the war ended, only humans remained in our galaxy. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of damaged systems." The implications of Chen's words sank in slowly. Humanity had not just survived an extinction war. They had won it so completely that they had eliminated their enemies entirely. "Captain," Vexla said carefully, "are you threatening us with the same fate?" "Commander, we prefer cooperation to conflict. We will never again allow anyone to threaten human survival. If your council chooses war, we will finish it. Permanently." More human ships continued to arrive. The fleet now numbered in the hundreds, and still they kept coming. Colony ships the size of cities carrying millions of people ready to build new homes. Factory ships that could establish industrial bases on any world. And everywhere, the rough, practical warships that had just destroyed a council fleet. Admiral Chen said, "I am transmitting coordinates for a meeting with your council leaders. Humanity is prepared to negotiate boundaries and coexistence agreements. But we will negotiate as equals, not as subjects. And if the council refuses, then your species will learn what ours learned 300 years ago. That the galaxy belongs to those strong enough to hold it." The transmission ended. Kekstar sat in his damaged ship, surrounded by human vessels, contemplating the impossible situation. The council had ruled through technological superiority for 3,000 years. Now they faced a species that matched their technology. It exceeded their willingness to fight. Vexla looked at the tactical display, showing hundreds of human ships in perfect formation around the broken council fleet. "Admiral, we need to contact HFY Prime immediately. The council needs to understand what we are really facing. They will never believe it. They will have to, because this is not about stories anymore. This is about survival. As Kextar began composing his report to the council, Dexla thought about the old legends. The stories had always said that humans were dangerous when threatened. But the stories had been wrong about one important thing. Humans were not dangerous, because they were desperate. They were dangerous because they had learned to be strong. They had faced extinction and emerged not as victims, but as conquerors. The galaxy was about to learn that some species earn their place through diplomacy and cooperation. Others take it through strength and determination. Humanity had chosen strength, and they had brought enough of it to reshape the entire galaxy. The legends were real. The stories were true. And now everyone would learn what it really meant when humans decided they had found a new home. The age of council dominance was ending. The age of human expansion was just beginning, in the void between stars. The human fleet continued to grow, each new arrival carrying more colonists, more ships, more evidence that humanity had come to stay. The rough, ugly vessels moved with purpose and confidence, no longer visitors, but owners of the space they occupied. The stories had become reality. And reality, as the council was learning, was far more dangerous than any legend.